it's a very important question because we need to differentiate the two scenarios. When we had the first wave, what we were dealing with, the biggest threat was of importation. The disease was not amidst us. And the leadership of the National Task Force, led by His Excellency, made very critical decisions to lock down this country. And in so doing, we protected the interior in such a way that the disease did not heavily penetrate our communities. If you can remember, in addition to the lockdown, there was a lot of contact tracing and of course isolation of people, those that were infected, and the whole idea was to make sure that the disease doesn't spread. And we did that effectively until about August. And if you remember, we started opening up around May, June, and as we opened up more, we began seeing more cases. And of course, the cases gradually rose as through the campaigns and the challenges we had through the campaigns until they peaked around December, November, and of course we fell drastically in January. And that is one thing that people have been asking us, what happened? But one of the things that we clearly know, and I've said it, that SARS-CoV, while it is in the group of the CoV-2, a group of viruses that you would say flu-like illnesses, and it is not influenza, or it's not a flu. Its patterns are also determined seasonally by the change in weather. So when we see a wet season, we should be worried. And as you know, we've been in the rainy seasons. And the rainy seasons are just, of course, coming to an end. We don't know whether they will sustain to July. And that is partly explaining the rise in the numbers that we see. But that is not the biggest thing. Beyond the effect of the weather, there is the interior dynamics. And when we had a drop in numbers, a lot of our people thought COVID had gone away. And we appreciate, I mean, it's normal because the restrictions that came with the lockdown and the measures that we imposed affected people socioeconomically, and people are desperate. But also you must understand that human beings are designed to live their life in a certain way, and that's largely defined by culture. But in this instance, you have restrictions that are coming and literally impacting on people's livelihoods. So people easily get tired of them if they are not been living like that. And so we've called that the COVID fatigue. And it's a global phenomenon that is recognizable everywhere. And we managed to live because the numbers had really fallen from all the way from January up to March. And then in March we began seeing that slow rise. And the slow rise started with about 20 numbers every day, cases that we were seeing, 20 cases, coming all the way from under 10, what we had between January and February. 20 cases, and we observed 20 cases for about a month. And as we began entering April, we began seeing a shoot up to about 55 cases. And the first 2 weeks of April were 55 cases until actually 3 weeks until we entered the last week, and we were shooting into hundreds. And it simply took 1 week for us to shoot to 200 cases per day. And that number, the doubling time has been reducing. So that is where the problem is. We had been studying this. We knew the second wave was coming on as early as March, when we saw the numbers rise from under 10 to 20. But there is usually, if you look at how this wave raises, it raises in a manner that we call a sigmoid function. It's an S-shaped curve. So you have this lag, and you don't know how long this lag will take. But when you begin hitting the exponential, it happens so fast, in the sense that the change is no longer linear, it is more logarithmic. Numbers that were initially 20, they suddenly turn 40, and then the next day they are 80, and then, you know, and for now, this is exactly what has happened, and we have a situation where that is evolving so fast, and we are worried that it could potentially turn chaotic. Why are we worried that it could turn potentially chaotic? Because right now Uganda's curve is looking right up straight. And if you look at what happened, and I really want us to study the case of India, because India experienced a similar drop in numbers, one province, and because that province was active at testing, and in fact the province was able to detect the first variant that we now label the Delta variant, which previously we've been calling the Indian variant, but we've changed that. So the situation in India evolved so fast, but we can learn from what happened there. The reluctance to comply to the SOPs, the COVID fatigue that led people to believe that COVID had gone away, and then of course the situation where, despite the fact that India was manufacturing the AstraZeneca vaccine under contract from AstraZeneca in the UK, they were actually not vaccinating as much. As a result, when the surge came in, a lot of the people had not been vaccinated, and so we saw a situation where, you know, numbers grew so fast and people died massively, and this has been aired on TV. The biggest worry for now, as far as Uganda is concerned, is that we've recorded 5 variants.
5?
Yes, 5 variants. The 4 variants that we know, variants of concern, the UK variant here, the Indian variant here, the South African variant here, the Nigerian variant here, and then we have a Ugandan variant that we label the A1.23 variant. That variant we are trying to study to understand whether it behaves in a similar way like the UK and the South African variant. Now, what we know from the studies around the UK and the South African variant, and of course more recently the Indian variant, is that some of these are more transmittable. They transmit more faster than the original variant that we had coming in from China. In addition, we've seen that these variants are associated with more severe disease, and the severe disease is not only among the senior people, it is also among the young people. So because of that, it is very easy for our little built capacities, especially in terms of case management, in terms of the hospital capacity to manage patients. It's very easy for it to be overrun. We've seen that situation happen in 2 of our hospitals. Right now, the Mulago National Referral, as well as, of course, Entebbe. And because of this, I think it is important that we rethink how we do things.
To re-strategize.
Because, I mean, there was the famous chat or talk, tell me somebody who knows somebody who has died of COVID. I don't know whether that chat or slogan or does apply anymore today, because certainly all of us know friends that are sick of COVID. We know family members. We know at least we know somebody, and everybody of us knows somebody who has died of COVID. So it's difficult to say that we are not aware. I think we need to rethink. I'll tell you that in trying to understand these dynamics, we have largely population that is largely made up of young people, and young people are naturally curious. They question things, and they are also rebellious. And it's good for creativity. It's good. It's this is what drives creativity. But unfortunately, when it comes to pandemics,
they don't discriminate.
It is this level of liberalism doesn't apply so well. And I want to talk about the scenario of China. The Chinese are very disciplined people. And once a command goes out, public health order goes out, the Chinese will follow. And that's how the Chinese have managed to live with COVID, despite the fact that it started there, despite the fact that they are heavily populated. So, thinking through this, I think we need to probably rethink a little bit about behavior, because at the end of the day, we will not constantly be imposing ourselves on people. If we are going to transition successfully, by the way, and sustainably into living with COVID, we must be able to understand that what was before COVID is no longer the norm. There is a new norm that we probably need to follow. And the concept of having to wear your mask is very important. The concept of sanitizing remains very important. Not touching your nose, your mouth without sanitizing or washing your hands remains very important. Social distancing remains more important. But particularly now that we have so many cases in the community, we need some sense of responsibility. If you know you've tested positive and you are symptomatic, or you are moderately sick and you've been requested to stay at home because our facilities are burdened, you should take the responsibility to protect those around you, your friends.
Sure.
You should not walk out and go to work for the 10 days. I mean, we fall sick, we take leave at the end of the day. It's very important. We understand the dynamics that our people, most of our people live hand to mouth. But I'll tell you that the responsibility for us to control this pandemic is on both of us. It is on us, the scientists, the Minister of Health, and the leadership of this country, but it's also on the population.
Because doctor, now to ask, because like now as we're at the level where we're having the wave 2, which is rapid, as scientists, as you're doing your research, is there a period you're determining that this rapid goes for this period of time according to the history of pandemics, or it will just go and at one point we go into a dormant stage?
Well, pandemics, we know that from, there is no infinite S-curve, or what I've described as the sigmoid function of the rise of pandemics. You reach a point and you peak. And the peak can happen for many reasons. Either because there is a level of herd immunity that has been achieved because many people have been infected, or the virus, by going through many cycles of infecting different people, has naturally mutated into a less virulent variant. Or, like I said, the weather patterns could, limit that. But the most important and the most dangerous point is this exponential phase, because the cases come in so fast. And this is what we need to really bring out. The biggest problem with COVID is not that COVID is here. It is the fact that the numbers grow so fast that they potentially overwhelm the existing healthcare. We saw this happen even in the developed world. So every time the cases overwhelm the existing healthcare, and you've seen this in India, when people are busy looking for oxygen, moving with their parents from one province to another province, hoping to access a hospital that can give their parents oxygen, and they can't do that. Every time we hit that imbalance, then the deaths begin to happen. Why? Because if somebody begins to saturate naturally, your saturation, or what we call the oxygen, partial oxygen saturation in blood, is supposed to be above 92. And that's normal. In fact, the normal is above 96. And for us, we say if you have COVID and you are above 92, saturating above 92, that's just okay. But immediately you fall below 92. So many changes happen in your body so fast. The organs begin not to receive enough oxygen. And unfortunately, that fall happens so suddenly. Somebody could be well today, and 4 hours later, they are completely incapacitated. And in addition to that, I think we've thought about it. There's a phenomenon that has been described as happy hypoxia. Why? Because your oxygen levels are falling, but your body naturally doesn't tell you that
they have fallen.
They are falling. It is supposed to be a natural, a physiological response that when the oxygen levels in blood fall, your body tells you that the oxygen levels are falling, and there's a negative feedback mechanism set automatically in place. For you start breathing faster, and the breathing faster is aimed at making sure that you pull in more oxygen so that you resolve this issue. That happens, for instance, when you run and your body needs it. This doesn't happen with COVID. We seated here, everybody is happy, probably playing, and then suddenly somebody goes down. So that is another worrying scenario. And so when we have patients that we've admitted in what we call the high dependence units, who are just breathing on oxygen, it happens so fast, some of them, you don't know where they will go. Some of them will recover, others will just go down, and they need to be ventilated. So because we don't have that much capacity, we need to be worried, and we need to be more responsible as Ugandans. I think that we can work out ways to do things together if people are more serious, and we should not predispose ourselves to a situation as happened in India.
Okay. Now, of the 5 variants that are already here with us, as scientists, have you done any research to show that this particular variant will target or is more in a particular age bracket? Because on wave 1, you'll find it was pretty much more the elderly that were pretty much affected. But now with this second wave, it pretty much knocks out anybody and everybody. Have you done research to find out if the specific variants target a particular age bracket, or it's just cutting across?
Well, from the data we see, number one, we must appreciate that everybody, regardless of age, is susceptible to getting infected with COVID. But what we had seen from the first wave was that the people who progressed to get severe disease were mainly the elderly who had comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, asthma, cancer, HIV. This time around, that is not true. And so everybody gets infected, and unfortunately, you know, the younger people, that the biggest infections that we are seeing are between 20 to 29. And these are the most active group of people, active socially, and in the sense that these are the people who have more friends to interact with. These are also the people that are going out to work daily. And then in terms of socializing, attending parties and other things, it is this age group that will do that more than the people above 50. And unfortunately, you know, being more socially active seems to have predisposed these people to more infections. And we can see the trend. The next, from the 20 to 29, we are seeing the 30 to 39 group following. So you can clearly see how that happens. But the issue of severity was not present with us when we had the earlier variant. And so it's very easy to explain epidemiologically that these variants seem to be causing more severe disease among the young people. So even without, I don't think we need any science. We just look at our data, and our data tells us, because we've seen 20-year-olds die. We've seen younger people in schools right now get infected and end up needing oxygen. This wasn't what we anticipated or what we knew from the first wave.
Now, still with this, because now, does that mean that with these new variants in, the arrangement of treatment has changed? Because the other time, of course, everybody had gotten, I think, used to it and had crammed and known that as long as you're suspected to be having COVID-19, this is the combination you're going to use that has azithromycin, duocortexin, vitamin C, and zinc. Is it still the same regimen, or because these variants are more aggressive, then the treatment regimen has changed?
The regimen remains the same. We've just made a few adjustments. In the past, we were encouraging people to take vitamin C, even if they were not sick. But our doctors observed that vitamin C, because of its acidic nature, was driving increased numbers of people with peptic ulcer disease to emerge. And we also saw some toxicity happening. And because of that, the doctors recommended that we take off vitamin C from the routine. It comes back once you know you've tested positive. You take it. But you're not going to take it routinely every day because you think it's protective against COVID. And we did that to protect the people. But the azithromycin remains. The vitamin C still comes on. The zinc comes on. Why? Because these supplements are important for mucosal immunity. And they work in combination with one another. The azithrom, when you get infected with a viral infection, that it lowers the immunity in the mucosa, and because of that lowered immunity, other organisms come in to cause infections. So we give the azithromycin to literally treat or protect against those other organisms. And the idea is not to make the pneumonia worse.
Okay. Okay. We're going to take a very short break, and when we do come back, Doctor is still going to take us more into an update on the second wave of COVID-19.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
The Teacher Management Information System, TMIS, is one of the innovations the Ministry of Education and Sports has rolled out to have all teachers register online. This is in line with the spirit of the National Teacher Policy to professionalize the teaching profession and the Ministry's effort to collate teacher data in a single database for better teacher management. Join us as we host officials of the Ministry of Education and Sports to discuss the Teacher Management Information System. The show is sponsored by the United Nations Education Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, under the Norwegian Teacher Initiative in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Sports.
Digital tax stamps are applied to goods or their packaging with security features or codes to avoid forging of goods and enable tracking and tracing capabilities.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Welcome back from that commercial break. You're still watching You Health Chat, proudly sponsored by National Medical Stores. And with me in studio is Dr. Wayenjera. And of course, we're still sharing with you an update on the second wave that is here with us. Now, Doctor, I'd like us to touch a very important area, that is vaccination. Because there's a time when we literally thought people would not respond. There was a fear and lots of stories about the drug that's being used to vaccinate people. But now it is amazing to see how fast everybody is rushing to get vaccinated. I would like you to comment about that.
Well, I think that's a positive change in our community. But of course, it is also a little bit unfortunate. largely because much of what we see happening, the rush for the vaccines, is based on the fact that people are beginning to see this emerging situation, which is not very good. Of course, we've done some level of sensitization to make sure that people get to appreciate that the vaccine is safe. The COVID vaccines were faced with several challenges, especially in terms of acceptance from the community. Why? Because number one, it was unprecedented that we developed these vaccines in a very short span. But it is important that people appreciate that from the time we had several pandemics, the West African Ebola outbreak that threatened to spread across the SARS and the MERS pandemics, people began to think loud and say, and the WHO actually came out clearly and said, denoted a disease X as the potential cause of the next pandemic. They never defined disease X, but for many of us, we knew that disease X would be a viral pathogen because viruses spread a little bit quite very fast. But in addition, of course, viruses are also complex in the sense that we don't have therapeutics against many viruses that we know. So because of this, the world came together and thought through, suppose disease X actually happens. How do we accelerate the development of vaccines, of diagnostics and therapeutics? And that's what led to the creation of CEPI, or the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Initiative. And that was funded largely by the Bill Gates Foundation, but in addition, the G20 countries put in quite a lot of money. And 2008, I think the first calls came out 2017, and then the next calls came out 2018. And the calls were calling for people to develop vaccines under very stringent timelines. Essentially, you develop a vaccine and make sure that it undergoes phase 3 clinical trials within a span of 12 months, 12 to 18 months. That's unprecedented. And the idea was just to test this phenomenon. This, of course, we've seen it come to pass with the COVID vaccines, that it's possible to develop a vaccine that very fast. But this been made possible because there's a lot of capacity that we've developed over the years. I'll tell you, it would take 5 to 10 years. It took 4 years, from 1980 to 1984, for us to identify the cause of AIDS. I mean, if you don't have the capacity to identify the bug, you are not going to be able to develop a diagnostic. You're not going to be able. But you can see that within a month of the outbreak in China, in November, by December, we knew not only that this was a coronavirus, but we knew the sequences. The genetic sequences of the virus. And because of the advances in technology that we've seen over the years, many of them, of course, caused by sustained epidemics like HIV, there's been a lot of advances in fields like immunology, virology, and of course vaccinology. You know, the challenges we've had with developing an HIV vaccine have led people to really try different methods for doing this. But we must also appreciate that the global framework for producing these vaccines on a large scale has also been present. And because of this, it's how we have managed to bring this vaccine around in a very short span. The vaccine, it is not that the vaccine cut or underwent shortcuts. The vaccine underwent all the stages. It was tested in animals, it went through phase 1, it went through phase 2, it went through the 2 phases, phase 2A, phase 2B, and it went through phase 3. And this was possible by people combining the phases because of the magnitude of the pandemic. You do a phase 1 in one country, do a phase 2A in another place, phase 2B in another country, and start a phase 3 trial running concurrently. And so people have been thinking, how do we cut down on the time? Previously, it took over 20 years, really, to get a vaccine. But we have quite sufficient technology. We have sufficient partnerships across the world that can enable this happen. So nobody should say the vaccine is not safe. The vaccine has been tested for safety, it's been tested for efficacy, and the data is out there. So the worry about the safety is not a big thing.
Then, Doctor, what about the issue of, like, there's some, I beg for you to classify and help people to identify, because most of the people, having taken it, you'll find somebody, you know, swinging with the swag and telling you that now that I am vaccinated, they're 100% sure they cannot get COVID. Now there is that conflict where they're like, but how did I get it? Or how did my friend get it yet they were vaccinated? That kind of talk. Please demystify.
So when Sir Edward Jenner, who's the immunologist that we all label the first person to develop a vaccine, began, noticed actually that the maids who are working in some of the rich royal or families were not actually getting infected with COVID. He began asking himself why this was happening. And then later he realized, of course, many things. Realized that these maids were the ones milking the cows, and the cows suffered from a version of the disease that looked like smallpox. So when Jenner did the initial inoculation of the younger man with the cowpox, it was the idea that you would use a vaccine to boost someone's immunity to either protect against disease, protect against primary infection, or to ameliorate the severity of the disease. Now, there are two reasons why we give the vaccine. We give the vaccine, number one, ideally to protect against primary infection. But there is a secondary benefit that comes with the vaccination, is to protect against severe disease. Now, for COVID-19, if you have been vaccinated and you have not been fully vaccinated, there is a difference in the immunity that you achieve, both against primary infection but also severe disease. So if you have not been fully vaccinated, I don't think you should go out confidently and say that you are immune. But even if you have been fully vaccinated, it takes about 2 weeks to 3 weeks for your body to mobilize and literally come to a point where it is robust enough to protect you. So if we've just started the second dose of vaccination, So most of the people have not hit the 2 weeks. So most of the people do not yet have that robust. But the studies we've seen is that breakthrough infections do happen even if you've been fully infected, vaccinated. And these breakthrough infections speak to the big picture of, you know, the data we talk about in terms of when we say the AstraZeneca vaccine is either 67 or it is 92% effective. It's essentially telling you that if you had 100 people, you've vaccinated all of them, there is a chance that about 8 of them could potentially get a breakthrough infection. So, and that is why at the end of the day, even if you're vaccinated, we still urge that you comply to the SOPs. Number one, because there is that small chance that you could be the one who gets infected. But number two, you could get infected, you don't get severe disease, but you're carrying the infection and you'll be able to spread it to other people. Yes, we know that vaccination, one of the effects of vaccination, it dampens the virus load, so you are less at risk of transmitting the disease when you're vaccinated. And these are some of the benefits that come with vaccination. But there is no guarantee that you will not completely spread. So these are things that I think it's too early for anybody in Uganda to say, well, I'm okay, I've been vaccinated. It is also important to realize that even if you're vaccinated, there are a few people who are unlucky, and particularly the people that have comorbidities. We think that diabetes particularly is associated with low immunity functions that could potentially make people more susceptible. So if you are fully vaccinated and you think you have an underlying disease, it's important that you continue to protect yourself against COVID.
Then how long is one immune after they have suffered from the virus? Because there's some people, like first wave, they got affected, managed to pull through. Does that mean that you've done a study to prove and show that they're immune, they can't easily get hit by the second wave, or that is it?
So unfortunately with COVID-19 there is nothing like being immune. So we've seen from the first wave that even the people that got exposed, many of them were still susceptible to a reinfection. And we try to understand why. And some of the studies have shown that the antibody responses that result from being exposed to COVID do not last very long. They last between 6 to 12 months, and then subsequently, and along the way, they are beginning to dwindle. Now, you know, the peripheral markers for immunity, and we have two arms of the immune system, the cell-mediated and you will say the humoral one. And the humoral one works through antibodies and the cell-mediated. So these two markers are not a very good correlate for protection. Why? You could find somebody has very low antibodies, but because they were previously exposed to a disease, their body still has that memory that when they get infected again, their body is very quick at mobilizing its soldiers to come and fight the disease. So one of the things that we are trying to look through this is particularly to study how long. We've seen the effective immunity. Yes, we see the antibodies fall, but how long? And unfortunately, you know, the reinfections have not given us very good hope that this memory could last that long.
Okay.
And that's why at the end of the day, even when you get vaccinated once, because actually when you get infected, you are more or less being vaccinated, but naturally, because that's what we call natural natural immunization. Because once you recover, your body has some level of immunity against the bug. So, but because of these reinfections, we've gotten to learn that in order for you to really have a good and robust immune system, you need to boost. And that's why vaccines like the AstraZeneca are given in 2 doses. In some places, people are already beginning to contemplate a 3rd dose. And that data is still being reviewed, whether we shall need a 3rd dose. But classically, when we look at the influenza diseases from the West, you know that ideally people have to be vaccinated every season. This is partly because the virus has evolved so fast, and what we call antigenic drifts and shifts happen, and the virus that is causing an epidemic this year might not be the same that will come next year.
Sure.
And unfortunately, we are seeing a similar situation happen with COVID. The virus is evolving so fast that we are seeing all these variants emerge. So we might need to be vaccinated on a yearly basis.
Wow.
That is a very it's a possibility. But that will apply mainly for probably high-risk people, people that are traveling, because once we are able to using these vaccines to control the pandemic, then the scare goes away from the community, and the people who should be worried about being exposed to the virus will be those that are moving up and down the globe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, your final winding up remarks. What strategies do you as the scientific team have in place to try and ensure that, you know, like with wave 2, wave 1, we were able to have, you know, success stories to share and carry back home. Now with wave 2 that is rapid, how are you going to control the spread? How are you going to support the community to see that we are able to follow the SOPs?
Well, I think 2 things. We've tried to make sure that we send out messages. Ideally, you know, the concept of vaccination was part of our resurgence plan. So we have a resurgence plan that we've developed as the Minister of Health, and it includes many things, and vaccination is just one of them. But one of the key things that probably I need to tell you is that the resurgence plan recognizes that COVID is here, it is widespread. As a result, we need to activate our existing health infrastructure that treats malaria, that treats hypertension, to be able to also take care of COVID. So we decentralize the response and try to make sure that the treatment can be done at every district and moving upwards. Of course, you know, we created the COVID task forces that are at the district level, and we hope that those task forces can wake up. Actually, we urge them to wake up and do their work. They constitute the CAO, the RDC, as well as the DHO and other members. I think there has never been a time that is important. We developed a robust community engagement strategy with the partnership with Professor Maswa trying to do this, and the TISC, or the Intersectorial Committee. And the idea was, rather than push people to comply, we need to train people on some of the things that need to be done. And we thought that we could rely on this, and it is my hope that we can count on Ugandans to really wake up and do their part, because it is one thing for us to say comply, 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 but it's another thing. It's usually a challenge in the sense that there is a difference between what people know and what they actually practice.
True.
And the public health expert is always struggling to see how do you bridge the gap between what people know and what they practice. And we did this with HIV until finally people came up with the ABC strategy and other things. But it takes time, and unfortunately we don't have that much time when it comes to COVID. We need that compliance happening as soon as yesterday. And I think one of the things that personally I would urge the community at this point is that the community gets to appreciate that we are in this together. You cannot say, oh, those are the scientists, oh, that's the Minister of Health. We can't do it alone. We have to do it together. And that, of course, means that we need to harness all the centers of power, from the religious leaders to traditional leaders. And we were engaging the leadership of the Kabaka about vaccines more recently, and we also went to Busoga. We engaged all these traditional, and the whole idea is really to try to make sure that people get better information, because these are key stakeholders in the community, and what they communicate is important. We have been hit by a lot of challenges in terms of misinformation around COVID, but also around vaccines. But I also urge people to try to be more aggressive in terms of seeking knowledge. Don't just pick something and post it and repost it and repost it. You could go to Google and try to find out, is there any truth about this?
Okay. Okay, Doctor, thank you so much for your time. I believe we will use possibly some more time next week when the incident commander, I'm assuming, will be around, and we can still exhaust this topic. We will possibly see how we'll respond to some of the concerns from the public out there. But thank you so much for this useful information that you've shared. I don't think I can add any more because Doctor has said it all. I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Keep watching UBC, for the 10 o'clock bulletin is coming your way with Michael Jordan Lokoma.
Your Health Chart is brought to you by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store, distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
The Teacher Management Information System, TMIS, is one of the innovations the Ministry of Education and Sports has rolled out to have all teachers register online. This is in line with the spirit of the National Teacher Policy to professionalize the teaching profession and the Ministry's effort to collate teacher data in a single database for better teacher management. Join us as we host officials of the Ministry of Education and Sports to discuss the Teacher Management Information System. The show is sponsored by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, under the Norwegian Teacher Initiative in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Sports. This weekend on UBC.
Oh my God.
Tunamunoga okukuba n'ebirowoozo bibiri yandikola future ennungi oba yandigana. Kati ekyalinga nti love ki tebyaliwo just kugira abere asembere abere mukwano gwange kati ekyo kyaliwo by that time.
Okay, so you exchanged the numbers. One number kumukologo.
Yeah.
Ne mutandika okwogera.
No. Namwa yange he didn't give me his.
Yeah, kati ye yakukubira after like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Amaze building a courage.
Yeah.
So the first time we yakukubira simu, how was it like? Tewekanga ku mtima tegwakuba.
No.
Burundi gumunti, hey, guy yankubira simu.
No.
Hey.
I was just happy.
You were just happy.
My
Tell me
obvious
about
called.
Hey.
So netunyumyamu.
Okay.
So when he told me kuba nali manyi muntu wafujja nnyo. Nga mmanyi mga fujja likyali mukoya ennaku zino nakyuka.
Right. Okay. So that's when the communication started.
Yeah.
Mtandika okukwatagana mpola mpola. When was that time that he told you, I think I've developed feelings for you?
After around 3 months.
Okay.
The friendship has grown.
Right.
Nangambako, but
this
guy
okusinzira ku background eri okusomera.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, kyantwalira omwaka mulamba okutandika nga buli kyenjogera bakiwuliramu. Abe naleetanga babiwa two thoughts. Yes or no. Kati mulina olemerako lemereko paka wagayi. Namukubira kumala weeks 3 nga tumiitinge ng'agaana. Ne lumu mba ndi awo ndi mu kibuga kasimu ne kavuga.
Ntyo akake nakubira right.
Nagiraba ne nesikamu nga kiki nakoze ekikyamu. Akubye esimu nga kiki nakoze ekikyamu. Ningikwata namba kumusinkana. Bye nali nkola awo nabivaako nabireka nengenda mulabe twamitinga ku mega.
This weekend on UBC.
Fred Buyungo, karibu. You know karibu in Swahili?
Yeah.
You say karibu?
Welcome, madam.
Right.
So, let me start garnishing this soup.
Okay. That's how you do it. Interesting.
This garnishing is okay, is enough. You don't need to put too much.
It looks good already.
Yeah.
What is this?
That's red marrow.
Red marrow.
Yeah, Indian they call it zucchini.
Zucchini.
Yeah, zucchini.
Ah,
yeah.
Zucchini, and this is a tomato.
These are just tomatoes. Finished.
Can't wait to taste.
Yes, please.
Right, what's next?
We're having our
I'm gonna wait on you.
Yes, a very good evening once again. Welcome to the second edition of News Tonight. We'll start with a look at these top stories in what we have. President Yoweri Museveni, First Lady Janet Museveni complete their COVID-19 vaccination. Government vows to bring culprits in the gruesome attack on General Katumba family to book. Pilgrims denied entry to Namugongo Matters Shrine. While in sports, She Maroons beat Rhines 1-0 to win the FUFA Women League. Yes, it's News Tonight. Welcome aboard. It's me, Michael Jordan Lukomwa, with Muhammad Mugalu, the man on the sign language corner. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and First Lady Mrs. Janet Museveni have taken their second COVID-19 vaccination jabs, completing the recommended dose to minimize effects of the raging pandemic. According to the World Health Organization, for some COVID-19 vaccines, 2 doses are required. For vaccines that require 2 doses, the first dose presents antigens proteins that stimulate the production of antibodies to the immune system for the first time. Scientists call this priming the immune response. The second dose acts as a booster, ensuring that the immune system develops a memory response to fight off the virus if it encounters again. The president assured Ugandans that vaccines are safe and effective, but urged them to continue wearing masks, washing hands with soap and water, sanitizing, ensuring good ventilation indoors, physically distancing and avoiding crowds to minimize transmission. Daily COVID-19 updates by the Ministry of Health show that 1,083 new cases have been registered, 49,759 cumulative cases, 522 active cases at the health facilities, 47,760 cumulative recoveries, and 365 deaths. The tests conducted so far now stand at 1,125,306, and the total number of people vaccinated now stand at 677,084 people. In more news, pilgrims at the Protestant shrine in Namugongo have conducted prayers to remember and celebrate the Uganda martyrs. It is now 57 years since the martyrs were commissioned and elevated to sainthood in 1964. The prayers were held under Ministry of Health guidelines.
Members of the outgoing cabinet, the Speaker of Parliament and the Head of Public Service John Mitala have graced the Martyrs' Day event at the Protestant shrine to remember the martyrs who were killed by Kabaka Mwanga Basamulekere.
And each of them was asked to denounce Christianity, to denounce Jesus. And they said no.
This is the time, yes we can. Say, tell everybody, yes we can. Yes, we can. Head of Later for the province, stand up. This is a man with a yes we can. To God be the glory.
The event has been scientifically held with a handful of people due to COVID-19. The Head of Public Service, John Mitala, represented the Head of State, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhaburwa.
I welcome and greet all the participating pilgrims who have joined this event.
President Museveni recognizes the contribution of the church to the development of communities, but disregards sectarianism based on religion and tribe.
It is the reason we are preaching African integration at all levels and all sectors, especially trade and enhancement of all services across the African continent.
23 Anglicans, 22 Catholics and 12 Muslims were killed on the orders of Kabaka Mwanga between 1885 and 1887.
Government is going to work with them to establish a Muslim Matters site at Namugongo. We are working with the Muslim leadership to document the story of the Muslim Matters, and this is how this can be actualized.
This year, the Church of Uganda celebrates 60 years of self-governance and self-propagation. Ivan Kahua, UBC News in Namugongo.
Christians attending Martyrs' Day celebrations at the Namugongo Catholic Shrine have been called upon to pray that Uganda overcomes the COVID-19 pandemic. This year's Mass, celebrated on the theme, Don't Take Heart, attended by 200 people, was animated by Masaka Diocese.
For 2 years running, Namugongo Martyrs Catholic Shrine has not hosted pilgrims due to the stringent standard operating procedures aimed at stopping the spread of COVID-19. This year, only 200 representative pilgrims attended prayers at Namugongo Catholic Martyrs Shrine, animated by Masaka Diocese. At 9:30 a.m., Bishop Severus Jumbo of Masaka Diocese led procession of celebrants, including the chairperson of Uganda Episcopal Conference, Bishop Anthony Zwa, the Apostolic Administrator of Kampala Archdiocese, Bishop Pose Mongerere, the Apostolic Institute Uganda, Luigi Biancho, and the priests made their way to the altar. Bishop Jumba urged pilgrims to have faith in the Lord, which will eventually bring peace.
I invite you, brothers, that the situation as it is, coronavirus is pressing us hard. Let us not lose hope. Let us face it with the eyes of the gift of faith which we have inherited from the white fathers for this part of the country and which has been watered by the blood of the martyrs.
Apart from the 365 Ugandans that have lost the battle to COVID-19, Bishop Jumba said the death of Bishops like Kaguo of Masaka, Cyprian Kizito Lwango of Kampala Archdiocese, and Odongo of Tororo have left a thorn in the church.
I want to add to the words of the Holy Father that we must witness to this legacy, that we have internalized this legacy by living a life of reconciliation, respect for one another, a life of justice, which ensures into genuine peace.
Bishop Anthony Zwa, the chairperson of Uganda Episcopal Conference, condemned the ungodly acts of murder in the country.
People using machetes to kill others, using spears to spear other people, using guns to kill people, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to repeat what has been mentioned here, what has happened to General Katumba, and we pray for the repose of his daughter and his driver. Now, how can we today condemn Mukajanga when there are so many Mukajangas? Does that exist? There are so many Mukajangas in our society.
The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among Anet, represented government.
We need peace, and as Christians, as religious, we are the ones who are going to preach about this peace that we are talking about. Let's come out truthfully to talk about it and we implement it. We should not just talk, but as government we are committed to have reconciliation.
This year's pilgrimage comes at a special time in the life of our country. A new term of office for the President and members of Parliament has just started. We seek the intercession of the martyrs so that God may enable the leaders to prioritize the fundamental needs of the ordinary Ugandan.
In Uganda, Martyrs' Day is celebrated annually to commemorate the 45 Christians killed between 1895 and 1887 on orders of Kabaka Basamulekere Mwanga of Buganda for embracing Christianity. Before the coronavirus pandemic hit the country, this place would attract between 800,000 and 3 million pilgrims. Today, only 200 pilgrims due to COVID-19 have attended this year's Uganda Martyrs' Day celebrations here at the Catholic Shrine on the theme, Don't Lose Heart. Bernard Higa, UBC News, Namugongo.
For 2 years in a row, Namugongo Martyrs Catholic Shrine and Nachianja Anglican Shrines have not hosted big numbers of pilgrims due to the stringent standard operating procedures that aim at the prevention of the spread of COVID-19. Research indicates that before the coronavirus pandemic, the main day celebrations would attract more than 3 million people.
Every year on the 3rd June, Christians from different corners of the world converged to Namugongo to celebrate Uganda Matters. In determination, the young men braved the wrath of Mokajanga to die for their newly found faith on the orders of Kabaka Mwanga Basamuleke. Similar to last year, the day's commemorations have not been in full gear, with a restricted number of 200 people. Research indicates that previously, before the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic, the day's celebrations would attract more than 3 million people. Some of the pilgrims who turned up with no authorized cards were denied access to the shrines, but sat by the roadside as they pressed rosary beads, meditating and praying.
Nakedde ssaawa 10 nenzuukuka nenzija zigenza okuwera emu maze natuuse dda wano naye olutuuse ne batugamba bakkaadi abakola ki abayingira ne kimmenya omutima kimmenyeza pulidde na bubi nnyo ne ŋŋamba sijja kuvaawo kambeere wano paka mmisa lweneggwa bweneggwa ne batukkiriza ne tuyingira nga nnyingira.
I am from Kenya. I came here to pray because this place is a very nice place, but when I came here at night I sleep outside. I thought in the morning I will get inside, no entering. Still morning, still I'm here, no entering. So I don't know what will come next.
Omuntu okujja wano aba alina ekigenderere. Abamu baba batuzze kwebaza ebirungi abajulizi bye batukolera. Tuba tulina ebizibu byaffe baba batusibira oluusi embuto ng'ezo ng'ozze okusaba abajulizi bakuvumulule. Naye kyetusanze wano obutuufu kituyisizza bubi. Naye tusaba Mukama nti abali munda kye bagenda okufuna naffe abali ebweru kye tugenda okufuna. Kubanga Katonda ali omu.
Unlike previous years where traffic jam was tight along main roads leading to Namugongo with great numbers of pedestrians, today was a different story as it took 15 to 20 minutes driving from Kampala to Namugongo shrines. Shop owners, merchandise sellers and hawkers operating around the shrines cried foul.
I feel pain now because of the coronavirus.
Lwokubanga ate kati saa zino abamu basuubya kyokka nga ate era obulwadde gye buli naye era tebafuddeyo gula masiki.
Most of the people see when they see military they think everything is about war or fight, so in actual sense it's not like that.
Food business and alcohol over time were greatly operating, but those in the nearby kiosks complained about scarcity of clients.
Mere ndama mfumbye naye ate sinatundako.
Mukola ne kati mbadde nkola temulaba abayaye nga tunywa ne mulowooza tufa.
Siga kati abantu bonna wano bajudde ntunda byakulya naye kati akasappisha k'enfumbi okalaba katono. Era embeera si nnungi bannange. Era abagenda kusaba ababagoba bugobi tebabakiriza kuyingirayo. Baagala bayise bakaadi. Naffe twalyagadde ogenda kusabako.
At Chibizi area, a common joint for pork, which always filled to capacity for pork clients, had no customers.
Badde wajudde abantu sawa zino nga kuli kujaganya basanyuka basaba tewali n'abembizi tebateriiwo wano bali bokyezawo embizi wano olaba wano
ebyokunywa batuleetera ebikakkanya kabeeyi kaffe ke tusobola naye nga era tusigala tudigidda mu ssanyu lyaffe.
Some of the people say this year's scientific celebrations have made them miss out on many things, including coming together to pray, share life experiences and make new friends. The 45 martyrs were killed between 1885 and 1887, of which 22 professed to Catholic religion and 23 were Protestants. Tony Senabulia and Ivan Ijuko compiled this report.
Christians in Uganda from different places have scientifically celebrated Uganda martyrs who were murdered starting 1885. At Munyonyo Martyrs Shrine, Reverend Father Dr. Hector Agapitus Businje of Hoima Catholic Diocese urged pilgrims to have hope in the promises of God.
This year, Uganda Martyrs Day celebrations were marked scientifically across the country. At Munyonyo Martyrs Shrine, the day was celebrated scientifically with SOPs observed. Reverend Father Dr. Hector Agapitus Businge, the main celebrant, congratulated the pilgrims upon reaching this year's celebrations amidst COVID-19 pandemic.
Created by COVID-19, and here you are. This hill has been climbed only by the courageous ones. Those who are afraid, they are praying through radios, televisions, and other ways. But for us, it is life.
At this site, Munyonyo, Andrew Kagwa, St. Denis Sebugwao, and Poshiano Ngondwe were killed by Mukajanga, the chief executioner.
What is your faith? Is it as deep as the depth of the skin? Or it is as deep as the ball of the world? How deep is your faith? Is it so deep that it touches heaven, that it touches the heart of God? Or it is suspended in the crowd somewhere?
In all, 45 Anglican and Roman Catholic martyrs were executed during the persecution of Christians under Kabaka Mwanga.
The blessing of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit descend upon you and remain with you forever. Amen.
Jane Nyiramcha, Lydia Chomkama, UBC News.
Father Emmanuel Lubega has appealed to Christians who converged in small limited numbers due to COVID-19 to commemorate Martyr Balikudembe, who was murdered behind the window market at St. Balikudembe Martyrs Shrine, to use the commemoration of all the martyrs who were killed for their strong faith and belief on this fateful day of the 3rd of June as an intercession to pray for Uganda and end bloodshed. Our reporter Farida Namfuka attended this intercession prayer at St. Balikudembe Martyrs Shrine Church in Mengo, Chisenyi, and filed this report.
3rd June has always been celebrated in Namugongo with big population of pilgrims from different districts all over the country and East Africa. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, this has ceased. This year, Christians celebrated this day in their respective churches and mostly at martyrs' shrines in their areas. In Chisenyi St. Balikudembe Market, 2 martyrs were killed, St. Joseph Mokasa Balikudembe and Athanasius Bazekuketa in 1885 and 86 respectively. Pilgrims in and around Kampala have attended Mass at this shrine led by the parish priest Emmanuel Lubega. In the morning, walking in one by one, Christians flocked the shrine. First thing to be done by many who were captured on camera was to kneel before the monuments built in remembrance of the 2 martyrs. Each who knelt before was asking for blessings in his or her prayer.
We really thought that even if we don't go to Namugongo, we can still make a pilgrimage to where these people died. And that's why we are here, so that whatever graces we would have got when we go to Namugongo, after all, their bodies are here.
When you are congregating with a lot of people, you get to know each other, friends. Like with the youth, you get friends from there, connections. But right now, due to COVID-19, we are just here in few numbers. So
the Mass here was held in the afternoon and attended by a minimum number of Catholics who operate businesses in Kampala. Accordingly, Christians make pilgrims as a sign of sacrifice, but this has not been the case this year.
I think it has affected somehow our faith and some people's faith because they used to go to Namugongo, they used to walk by foot, but now it is a different story. So we ask God to help us to overcome this challenge we meet today of COVID-19.
The Catholics prayed for intercession of the martyrs to end bloodshed in the country. Father Emmanuel attributed this to lack of love for neighbors.
Today we are asking the Uganda martyrs to intercede for us, to have the spirit of love, because today people do not love each other. And you know what Jesus gave us? He gave us the 2 commandments, to love God and to love our neighbor as we do love ourselves. But these days, hatred is everywhere.
According to what he has said, we need belief, because people have lost what we call, liveness and love to each other.
By press time, Christians at Jane Mary Musei Martyrs Shrine in Chisenyi Mengo were praying the sacrament. This shrine has a well where people get holy water. They believe perform miracles.
N'amazzi ga mukisa abasena ku mazzi ne basena ku mazzi ne bagenda ne bagakozesa mu mbeera ez'enjawulo.
Ebinsobire ninga sesa omunju aita ninywaho rundi nikereza abaana obako barwaire ne babaho kurungi.
St. Jean Mary Musei was a doctor who was killed on 27th January 1887. Christians usually use this water to get healed of various diseases.
Because they get holy water. Holy water, they have received a lot of mysteries, a lot of miracles when they have used that holy water. So people, they come out with testimonies.
I'm Nafka Farida and Stephen Kalisia in Kampala.
Uganda Martyrs Day celebrations. Still, because of COVID-19, Ugandans have not been able to celebrate the Martyrs Day as usual, the most pronounced social event in the country. At Uganda Martyrs High School, Lubaga, whose name suggests the attachment, the failure to be at Namugongo hasn't deterred the enthusiasm.
We have had our celebrations here locally at school. We have definitely had Mass, and also we are spending the day in honor of our whole Uganda Martyrs. As you see, the students, they are having their activities here and there to commemorate and celebrate the whole Uganda Martyrs. As we know, the whole Uganda Martyrs, these saints mean a lot to us, not only as a school, but also as the country. We are really blessed and privileged to have the whole Uganda Martyrs, and we pray that we try to emulate, to follow what the Uganda Martyrs teach us. As people of Uganda, especially during this time of Corona, during this time of uncertainty, when we are faced with various challenges, we ought to cling and pray to the whole Uganda Martyrs to teach us to live a life full of faith, a life full of sacrifice, a life full of love for others, but above all, to make sure that we follow Christ in whatever we do, even the most difficult times.
Yes, our first segment had only stories to do with the celebrations of the Uganda Martyrs Day, a day very big in the history of this beautiful country, Uganda. Let's now take a short break. On return, we'll have more pertaining to other stories. Thank you for watching.
Today in history.
On 3rd June 1886, 32 young men, both Anglicans and Catholics, were burned to death at Namugongo for their refusal to renounce Christianity under the orders of Kabaka Mwanga II of Buganda. Saint Chirigwa Joe Antoli, Luke Banabachintu, Mbaga Tuzinde, Kizito Omuto, Walukaganuwa, and St. Javira are some of the martyrs that were killed on 3rd June at Namugongo, about 15 kilometers east of Kampala city. Before its current name, Namugongo was called Busari. It then got the name Namugongo because most of the martyrs were dragged on their backs to reach the site. Namugongo Martyrs Shrine stands on 22 copper pillars representing the 22 Catholic martyrs. In front of the main entrance to the church, below the altar, is the spot where Charles Lwanga, the leader of the Catholics, was burnt on 3rd June 1886, and the church was consecrated by Pope Paul VI on 2nd August 1962.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
In efforts to improve quality assurance and Uganda's competitiveness as a tourist destination, Uganda Tourism Board is set to undertake a nationwide grading and classification exercise of hotel and accommodation facilities. As a member of the East African community, Uganda subscribes to the East African Grading and Classification Criteria, a system denoted by stars ranging from 1 to 5. The grading and classification exercise will be crowned by the awarding of star ratings to facilities found compliant to the EAC minimum standards. This is therefore a call to all accommodation and facility owners and managers to register and get licensed by UTB as a requirement and get ready for participation. For more information, visit www.utb.go.ug or email qualityassurance@utb.go.ug for details. Uganda Tourism Board, promoting tourism together.
UBC News, welcome back from the break. The commander of the Uganda People's Defence Forces, General David Muhoozi, has reassured the family of General Katumba Wamala that government will at all costs protect the territories of Uganda for safety of her citizens. He was speaking at the burial of the late Nantongo Brenda, daughter to General Katumba Wamala, in Chikandwa, Mukono district.
This Thursday, 3rd June 2021, Nantongo Brenda, daughter to former Works and Transport Minister General Katumba Wamala, has been laid to rest.
Many people have been wondering why the gown. Brenda yambadde gown. Mami yagambye eno mbaga ya Brenda esembayo. Njagala okulaba omwana wange mu gown. And I made sure I get the gown.
Nanganze nabagambye ab'oku mulimu nti mu December nja kugenda. Ngenda kugenda wala kolina mugamba oddayo mu America. Nabagamba nti ye nja kuddayo temujja kuddamu kundako. Story njijjukidde ya Kingamba. Era bwe maze nembikwa ne kakati kwe kuno kuyabagambye nti ngenda. Tagenda kuddayo balaba. Simanyani gwe yali anyumya naye. Naye nga yanyumiza emboozi eyo.
Omuntu gw'ogenda otya ne weebaka n'oyanirizibwa abaana bo ne bakuwa kyayi n'omugaati n'olya ng'ovakola ekikolobero bw'ekiti. Ddala mazima weebaka otya ekiro. Otunuulira otya abaana bo ng'omaze okutta owaamu nno. Kulwaki temwagalira
The final send-off prayers were led by the Archbishop of Church of Uganda, Right Reverend Dr. Stephen Kazimba Mugalu.
Eri ab'okwerinda mwenna, eri bannayuganda abalumirwa emirembe, eri bannaddiini ffe okubeera nti tukubiriza abantu baffe okubeera ab'emirembe. Abira abantu baffe, buli muntu abeemu omutima ogulumirirwa munne. Njagala okusaba Katonda atuteekemu ekintu kye bayita obuntu. Mu Lungereza kye bayita humanism. Ekyo kye kibuze mu ffe.
Uganda People's Defence Force, where Katumba Wamala is still a serving officer, was represented by the CDF, General David Muhoozi.
The silver lining in this cloud, however, is that it's a signal for us in the UPDF to zippen up our boots. It's a direct provocation, and we shall certainly respond.
Muhoozi reassured government commitments to the search for perpetrators and securing the nation.
The motive of the killers seems apparent from the choice of their target to cause disaffection against government, to cause fear in the public, and to create an impression that peace and security is not durable in this country. This and other tests to our collective resolve, we shall overcome. We certainly can't make it any lighter on the family. The weight of loss is big. But we empathize with you, sir, and your family. And we shall also go after the culprits.
Muhoozi, however, faults the judiciary for giving an escape route to such criminals at a time if netted on assumption of lack of substantive evidence.
And this causes impunity. It has happened before when culprits exploit gaps to go away scot-free. We need this time round to marshal all our efforts in a coordinated way to ensure that we deal with this threat decisively. After all, our cardinal law, the Constitution, provides that substantive justice will be administered without undue regard to technicalities.
The central government was represented by the former government whip in Parliament, Ruth Nankabirwa.
Nga gavumenti nti tulina obusobozi obumala obw'okwanganga abazigu bano.
While addressing mourners, General Katumba Wamala referred to the daughter as a sacrifice for his life and also hailed his bodyguards and driver.
Because if Brenda was not where she was seated, all those bullets would have ended in my body. So she was my guardian angel.
She gave in her life for me, unknowingly. She gave in her life for me. And maybe God said, your dad still has some work to do. But you being a good girl, come to heaven and we'll give you some more other work.
Till date, Katumba wonders what the motive of their silence was about.
How heartless people can be. That's what I saw. Situation eno nganti abantu nga balina ettima. Era netondera Mukama Katonda kubanga kye nasooka okwogera nagani Mukama Katonda nga njagadde nnyo abantu lwaki abantu tebanjagala. I think I was wrong. And I'm sorry. Because people love me. People have loved us.
At only 33 years old, Nantongo Brenda was laid to rest amidst tears. On Tuesday morning, there was an attempted assassination of General Katumba Wamala in Kisasi, in which his daughter Brenda Nantongo and driver were killed. General Katumba escaped with bullet wounds. Robert Onyango, UBC News, Chikandwa, Mukono District.
Former Minister for Security and also member of the UPDF High Command, General Eli Tumwine, has sent a condolence message to the family of General Edward Katumba Wamala upon the death of his daughter, Brenda Nantongo, who was buried today.
My dear brother, Honorable General Katumba Wamala and your family, I bring you my condolences. On the morning of 1st June 2021, on Tuesday, we got the shocking news of the attack by assailants on your life, in which your daughter Brenda Nantongo and your driver lost their lives. My family and I, and the bigger fraternity of the security forces, share with you the grief of this sudden and brutal death of Brenda and the driver, and I know how you were close to both. As we spoke on phone, the devil is a liar. Today we are celebrating the life of Brenda Nantongo, but just share with you a similar experience and encourage you. This word celebrating, when my 25-year-old son, Junior, whom you knew, passed on. First, this word celebrating on the book in the church took me aback. But on deep analysis, I came to know that God had allowed us 25 years of sharing with his life. And therefore, I want you to know that we are sharing the 32 years of Brenda with you and your family, the years of love in which God allowed you to share with her. It was her day, it was not your day. And these incidents continue to teach us lessons for us to do our best, and we let God do the rest. I repeat, these incidents challenge us for us to continue doing our best and let God do the rest. There is a reason why some people survive. It is mainly to continue serving the good purpose that they are allowed to live on this earth, like you have always been doing. Continue doing your best and let God do the rest. We shall continue. Let everyone know that we shall continue to mobilize all the peace-loving people of Uganda and of the world to resist, defeat, and overcome these criminally minded people in our society. Let us wish you and your family at this time strength and courage to go through this period, and for you we wish you a quick recovery. God bless you and may her soul rest in eternal peace.
Moroto Referral Hospital is facing a shortage of oxygen as the hospital plant cannot produce enough to cater for the increasing number of patients.
The district has increasing confirmed cases of COVID-19, with most affected persons are under 40 years of age. The district health officer, Dr. Hans Lokare, explains that the victims had not been vaccinated.
In the last 7 days, we've seen, if you look at the rankings, we are second to Kampala in terms of the attack rate, which is at 60.2 per 100,000 people. Now,
the director, Moroto Referral Hospital, Dr. Benedict Watmoni, and Dr. Lokare say Moroto Referral Hospital oxygen plant cannot produce enough oxygen for the rising cases.
Despite, even if we have the power stable, the plant is not big enough to give us the amount of oxygen that is required, okay, for the increasing number of patients. So the need vis-a-vis what we can produce is a challenge.
The production is so low, we are unable to produce 6 cylinders in a day. And yet, we need, so we have a deficit. We need 12 to 15 in a day. So we have a deficit of about 9 cylinders daily.
So far, one COVID-19 patient needs over 10 liters of oxygen per minute.
Each patient requires about 3 cylinders per day, and those are 15 cylinders in a night in 24 hours. So meaning the demand for oxygen is very high.
Meanwhile, in a span of 1 week, 4 schools in Moroto district registered cases of COVID-19.
Students asking the teachers, the schools to adhere to the SOPs, strict adherence to the SOPs, because we've seen a high number of students testing positive.
The vaccination exercise in the district has attracted teachers, health workers, and the elderly.
In the last 7 days, we've seen our uptake of the vaccine increase. As of yesterday, we have zero balance of the 2,670 doses that we received. The health workers have finally taken up the vaccine.
In the meantime, the problem remains with patients supervised at home, with the incidence of mixing up with other people in communities.
High number of patients we are managing from home under the home-based care strategy, and it's working quite well despite the challenges.
Somebody, you advise somebody, please stay at home, observe this guy. If you move around, you see this person in the market. You meet this person in the bank.
Most people in Moroto rarely put on masks, neither all practice social distancing during meetings.
Now, as a district, what we are doing is we are mobilizing our communities. We are doing community engagement strategies. As you are all aware, the COVID fight is no longer a fight involving only the DHO or the president. It is now each one's responsibility.
In the last 7 days, Moroto district has registered 54 cases. 54 people had COVID-19 symptoms. 23 are admitted, 5 dead. Maureen Iga, Helen Barbara, reporting for Ubc Tv News.
The Vice Chairman, Presidential Scientific Initiative on Epidemics, Professor Venan Nantulia, has disclosed that Busitama University is checking on mechanisms of action against COVID-19. He challenged scientists on a medication against COVID-19 because medicines come from plants, fungus, hence the need of doing more research about the virus.
The journey to tackle problems begins with science, research and concerted effort. The discussion was during a networking for Old Boys Association of St. Peter's College, Tororo, organized to bid farewell for long-serving headmaster and old boy Mr. Olokojo Francis. Among the old boys, the Vice Chairman, Presidential Scientific Initiative on Epidemics, Professor Venan Nantulia, tipped scientists to investigate a cure against COVID-19.
Why can't we have a medicine against COVID with all the plants we have and the herbalists that we have? Yes, there's progress. There's a group at the Busitama University doing serious science, checking on the mechanism of action. They are looking at 3 possible herbs.
He confessed that determination leads to success. The executive director, Great Lakes Safaris, also an old boy of St. Peter's Tororo, Amos Wekesa, expressed the need to invest in socialism.
So if you have a skill, you have networks, you have a bit of money. The fourth thing is automatic network. Influence. So that's something that really now. When you fall from money, but if you are well skilled, it's much easier for you to go up. And that's why you see sometimes people join politics, do stuff. But the moment the salary from parliament ends, the guys go to zero.
Bidding farewell to Francis Olokojo, an old boy and headmaster of St. Peter's College, Tororo College, the old boys were informed that there is need to revive the Bernard Onyango Excellence Academic Awards.
There was a challenge of sustainability if we did not change strategy. I think initially the awards relied on collections year in, year out, and they quickly were drying up. But the Archdiocese of Tororo, through the land office, is working very hard through the support of the new head teacher and the school to have those titles renewed, and then you can continue using the land as much as you want.
They were asked to embrace the Tororo College 20K to be paid monthly to support the school.
And we can make Tororo College another Ndare, like Professor Vinara said, we can make Tororo College another King's College Budo. I was so shocked that when this man asked me whether I could take my nephew to Tororo College, and honestly I couldn't, because the boy even didn't know about Tororo College. So I couldn't tell my sister, oh, okay, we will not go to King's College Budo, we will take the boy to Tororo College. But we need to regain that glory that our children and our grandchildren possibly will remember someday that the school where Professor Vinand went, the school where Professor Wenyu went, the school where Amos Wekesa went, the school where Jagenda Semakola Zuksoka went, is a school that I also want to go to.
Sudat Kaye, UBC.
Government continues to get plaudits from various bodies on how it's preventing the rampant spread of COVID-19. The Pakistani Association of Uganda has also intensified standard operating procedures. Ugandans have also received medical advice to inform decisions as the country embarks on stopping the last wave.
Government policy and Ministry of Health, they are doing well. Even the vaccination they are making, it's going through its way. So I appreciate the government effort here, but this COVID took our business badly, you know, but we are still slowly getting back in our...
I advise you that please think positively and move forward instead of letting the COVID-19 effects come on you and then it takes you hostage and all that. Please, all my brothers out there, yes, I would insist on one point, SOPs. Yes, you should follow the SOPs and keep on thinking positively.
Now this one SOP, mask, sensitizing, that will be the code of our life. That will not go easily, it will take time, and we have to use all these things in our life to save our family, to our health, and to our society.
Still treating the COVID in our hospital, so many ICU patients, so many high dependency patients, so many ward patients. We know what is going on. So it is almost a wave already started in this country. We have to take care. If you can't do so many things, please avoid some congestions also. At least this mask, whether any type of mask which is recommended.
A professor at the Department of Records and Archives Management, East African School of Library and Information Science, Makerere University, has been recalled. Suspended for 6 years and a half, Professor Elisam Magara's suspension ended on the 18th of May this year. The Dawn appeals for a spirit of Ubuntu.
The institution has to compensate all my time. Yeah, the Vice Chancellor is writing to me.
Immediately after his 6.5 years of suspension was lifted, Immaculate University Don Professor Elsa Magara has appealed for trust and the spirit of Ubuntu for harmonious coexistence in organizations.
People, what I tell people, have Ubuntu. Wherever you work, if you have somebody you work with, that's the trust. The trust is the first thing in it for development. The first thing, trust. So when the trust is lost, whether you preach, whether you fast, it will not come.
The once director, East African School of Library and Information Science at Makerere University, Professor Magara, was suspended in December 2014 for allegedly mismanaging students' marks.
As humans, mistakes happen. If there is a mistake, call me, tell me this is your mistake. But not write me a letter.
This led to a protracted legal battle at the industrial court between Makerere University and Professor Elsa Magara, in which he was awarded a sum of 600 million for a no-full suspension.
Because if somebody denies you what you're supposed to have, that is ruinous. You don't know why he's holding it, and there's no explanation of holding, and you see there is no justification. It is a wilderness. It is a wilderness that we think organizations and people should know. So when you are holding somebody, at least hold him and finish.
Though Makerere University Council has eventually lifted the suspension, effective 26 May this year, Professor Magara is still unhappy with what he calls unfair treatment by his employer.
The treatment was not fair. The way how it was organized, to be kicked, like I was pushed out of the office, and it was not fair. So
earlier, the industrial court ruled that the suspension of Professor Elsa Magara, ceasing compensation and continued suspension despite the court order, is in breach of the university's own human resource manual, which limits suspension to 90 days, which action amounts to continuing with the disciplinary process in contempt of the court orders.
You have a situation, don't fear that situation. If you fear it, it will kill you.
Habimana Deo, reporting for Ubc News.
Powerful.
National Medical Stores receives a total of 22 billion shillings from government annually to cater for reproductive health items. Allaying any fears on reproductive health items, the Chief Store and Operations Officer Paul Okware says that the money in question also caters for delivery kits, also known as mama kits.
Pregnant women to aid them in safe delivery during childbirth. The mama kit package includes items like gauze, surgical gloves, cotton wool, bathing soap, surgical blades, and Macintosh sheets. These are meant to be given to all mothers free of charge in all public health centers. Nonetheless, although these kits are provided free of charge, there are still claims that some health centers have continuously asked mothers to pay for them.
NMS provides them absolutely free, and nobody should ever pay for a mama kit from a public health facility.
The Chief Stores and Operation Officer at National Medical Stores, Paul Okware, says government provides a total of 22 billion annually for reproductive health, out of which part of it is apportioned to provision of delivery kits.
Government is providing in excess of 22 billion every year for reproductive health items. A lot of it goes to mama kits, and there is no reason why a mother should ever go to a public health facility and pay for anything called or related to a mama kit.
Okware says NMS even provides mama kits in excess to cater for any likely emergencies, although they still encounter challenges related to poor planning and ordering of commodities by health facilities.
The stores are full, and all we are waiting for is facilities to order, and we're expecting that those medicines must be provided to the patients free of charge.
With the introduction of the new integrated system NMS Plus, this will link suppliers and health facilities to NMS to ease the planning, budgeting,
and ordering process. Susan Naonga reporting for Ubc TV.
Technical staff have been asked to work closely with the newly elected politicians to ensure effective service delivery to the people. This was while presiding over the swearing-in of lower local government chairpersons and councillors in the Ubc sub-county Apache district.
At the onset of the decentralization policy in 1997, political and administrative units were also created at lower levels for effective service delivery. At Ubc Town Council headquarters, Town Council and sub-county leaders were sworn in to serve for the next 5 years.
Hi, Enyim Alfred Yawaso. I, Olemo Andrew, swear in the name of Almighty God
that I will at all times well and truly serve the sub-county
While presiding over this event, Michael Mwanje, the Chief Administrative Officer of Apache District, asked political leaders to work hard and be self-reliant.
Between now and until the 1st of July, when you fully in office, is to start planning.
The technical staff need to open up, and they don't hide anything behind the curtain from these councillors who are going to take the mantle to develop the budget kind of thing, and more so inducting them where they can know their roles and responsibilities. Even right now, some of them, they don't know their roles and responsibilities, what they come to do. They don't know at all.
Yeah, the challenges came, one of which is still there, is about the Ubc Rock. And that one, I shall bring the two parties. I analyze everything. We come on the table and we come to the agreement.
Councillors were also warned on dress code.
Shoes that are not straight on the leg which are slanted, leave them at home, not cancel.
The new chairperson of Ubc Town Council, Alfred Jawasingim, pledged to spur development of the new town council.
Let us all work jointly and embrace the NRM manifesto so that we develop Ubc Town Council.
The lower local government leaders are important in mobilization and the delivery of services to the community. Ediolwa, UBC News in Apache District.
A section of young people have teamed up for social transformation and drumming up the public to join a drive codenamed 10K for Autism, with an aim to solicit funds to meet needs of children suffering from autism. Autism is a condition that affects communication among children.
According to research, over 30% of the young population across Africa, especially those below 14 years, is either living with or prone to autism.
We have particular centers managing these children, but we don't specifically focus more into giving specified care to them. Like, for example, when you try to look at most of the hospitals like Mulago, we have these patients can be seen in the psychiatry department or in the pediatric neurology clinics. So when they come, they are seen, but I think we lack something to follow up on these children. So these children, since they are special, we need to have particular centers specifically focusing more on them.
But what is autism?
Autism, it is quite a unique disease also. Most of the causes, we can call it, it's not known well, but there are some factors which are really pointing towards, which predispose people to get autism. Factors like delays in development, like children who are born and they score badly, they get some neurodevelopment delays and they are exposed to autism. Others, it can be, some studies have shown that it can be genetically caused. For example, in the family, if you have somebody with autism, there are chances that in the lineage you can have a first-degree relative to have it in the next generation.
Silently talked about and with few physical symptoms, the disease seems to be a future threat, according to Dr. Mulwanyi Enoch, an expert working with Whispers Children Magic Hospital in Kampala.
If your child has been diagnosed with autism, don't lose hope, because this patient's treatment plan really, it's a multidisciplinary commitment of like 4 different people. So we need the family to be with the doctor, to be with this child. So family is vital in treating autistic children. Then we need the community And we also need the medical team to come on board such that we try to empower this child.
Although this was initially an online concept, the initiators have kept on dreaming.
Brainstorming, we met online, so we're brainstorming how we can help the world change a child, maybe one or two. And we looked at a few things that COVID has changed, and we had done campaigns before that helped some other people, members running organizations and campaigns still. And here we come with a thought of helping autistic children.
The 10K campaign for autism, whose target is for 100 well-wishers, will be officially launched this Saturday, 5th June 2021, and will run for the next 100 days.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Senchu points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
UBC News Tonight. Uganda National Bureau of Standards is in a nationwide mobilization campaign to meet stakeholders to guide them on quality that meets both local and foreign market. The latest tour involves maize traders in a one-day standards awareness meeting in Luwero district.
The quality of maize, which is one of Uganda's major food and cash crops, has become a key focus to enable farmers benefit from the export trade.
Why we are interested in maize is one, it is grown all over Uganda and consumed all over Uganda, but also importantly it is one of the priority crops in our national development plan, and it puts a lot of money into pockets of very many people, and so it therefore needs special attention.
Uganda National Bureau of Standards has realized a poor handling at harvesting and post-harvest stage, with poor storage eroding quality that leads to the dangerous aflatoxins.
Science has shown that they cause cancer, but it is not only through directly eating that mold from the processed cereals. You can actually get the aflatoxin, for example, from beef or chicken that has eaten the grain that has the aflatoxin.
As a follow-up, Uganda National Bureau of Standards has taken the initiative through standard awareness meetings, the latest of which has targeted Luwero farmers.
Why we are here today in Luwero is to basically meet the maize millers and maize distributors and traders to help them confirm the requirements of the standards.
Luwero Maize Millers Association chairperson concedes poor quality, but he promises improvement following the supervision. Currently, Luwero district has no Uganda National Bureau of Standards certified miller, yet this is a requirement ahead of production.
Yes, in the world of sport, Shimaroon's Women's Football Club has emerged triumphant in the Federation of Uganda Women Elite League that climaxed at the Fufa Technical Center in Jeru. In the final, Shimaroons needed the immaculate prowess of star striker Millicent Namwembe, whose only goal didn't only settle this game, but also ensured she finishes atop the scorers chart with 6 goals. Namwembe's teammate Joan Nagai won Most Valuable Player accolade. Shikataka Women Football Club was awarded the Fair Play Gong, while Rhine's goalkeeper Elsie Najemba won the Golden Gloves award. The two teams that contested the final, Rhines and Shimaroons, have earned the right to play in the women's football's top division, the Women's Super League, next season. Because of the COVID-19, the Women's League was played in a tournament fashion of 4 groups, with each entering the technical center at a particular time. Thank you so much for watching. That brings us to the end of News Tonight. My name is Michael Jordan Lukoma. With the whole team here, wish you the best of the night. Catch you in our other programs. Bye-bye.